Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, the latest shooting in the inner city community causes residents to take a stand, saying enough is enough. We've got the story ahead.
Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, we'll tell you what police know regarding the country's latest murder.
Are parliamentarians up to date on their taxes? Well, one politician plans to lay it all out on the table. Find out more in the Bahamas tonight.
A COB student in recovery tonight after she's assaulted coming from class.
And the smallest Radalil leads CI Gibson to the biggest championship. The Bahamas tonight. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Hurting people hurt people. If I am led to believe that I am nothing, then I would go out in the community and think that nobody else is nothing.
Citizens frustrated as crime again interrupts their lives. Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles.
I'm Kishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Well, the latest incident, a shootout which left 2 males in serious condition in hospital and police searching for the man responsible for the bold daylight attack. And as Clint Watson tells us, the culprit reportedly approached a group of men and opened fire.
Someone said a gunshot, so I realized gunshot don't have no respect for no one, so I get my next nephew who was going up the road. I said, that's gun going on up there, let's go this way.
Area resident Edward Roker, just one of the many residents who witnessed a broad daylight double shooting on Panza Street off Market Street shortly before 10 this morning. Police press officer Superintendent Stephen Dean says they're following significant leads. He said when police arrived on the scene, they already met the 2 males lying in a pool of blood, suffering from gunshots to the body. The men were taken to hospital by ambulance where they were listed in serious condition.
The man left on foot. We do not know if this man had any accomplices. We are early in our investigations. And also police were able to recover a handgun and a shotgun off the scene. And so we are actively investigating this matter to determine how many persons might be involved in this incident. We have stepped up our patrols in these areas. We have increased patrols, but we have to now redouble our efforts based on what we see in this trend of these broad daylight shootings.
And according to Superintendent Dean, there's a common thread that they're discovering with inner city communities, particularly when crime is involved.
It's the tit for tat, so to speak, the retaliations where persons hold feuds and they're not giving up, protecting various turf.
Residents say they refuse to accept crime in their communities as a new normal.
Many of them are very opposed to it, but they live under the threat of some of the criminals who live amongst them. They do not believe that the authorities can protect them. They do not really believe the authorities want to protect them.
I don't find myself to be in fear because of no crime, because what happened now, see, crime comes to people who work with the crime workers. Okay, I don't work with the crime workers. If I see something going on that's right, I tell you about it. I approach you and let you know what you're doing is wrong.
Hurting people hurt people.
And why do you say that?
Because if I am led to believe that I am nothing, then I would go out in the community and think that nobody else is nothing.
And while residents admit that crime is happening too frequently in their community, they refuse to accept it as a new normal. Police are again appealing to anyone with information to call them at 919-911. Crime tipsters at 328-TIPS. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Meantime, police continue their probe into the circumstances that led to a man being found dead on a bus yesterday evening. The victim was brought to the police station on the Route 1 bus. But as Jimonita Swain tells us tonight, police offered very little on just how he got there.
A murder investigation was brought right to the doorstep of officers at the Quaco Street Police Station. This after the driver reported an incident on his bus. Assistant Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson said during the initial investigation, the victim was found with a gunshot injury to the lower body. Now, when ZNS News arrived on the scene shortly after 7 o'clock, we met a number of officers moving around the jitney parked through the corner of Quaco and Market Streets, not too far from the rear of the police station. The area was cordoned off with crime scene tape at both ends. Assistant Commissioner Ferguson was a bit tight-lipped, however, he indicated that they are trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together.
The circumstances surrounding this incident is unclear. We are trying to determine where the bus was when this incident took place. From all indication, it appears as if other persons might have been on the bus, and we are appealing to those persons who was on the bus at the time to come forward and provide the police with information.
Pockets of onlookers gathered at the market and on Quaco streets as they watched the officers of the crime scene unit carry out their analysis of the scene. The victim's body could be seen lying on the floor at the door of the bus. Assistant Commissioner Ferguson said when the jitney pulled up, there appeared to be another passenger on board besides the victim and the driver. However, Assistant Commissioner Ferguson declined comment on whether there was any damage to the bus, and he also declined providing a description on the victim. When asked about the bus driver, he had this response.
He's not in custody. The investigation is in its early stages. We have to carry out our investigation before we make a determination where we go from there.
Up to airtime, the victim still had not been positively identified by police. Jimenita Swain, ZNS Network News.
Students at the College of the Bahamas are now taking steps to secure themselves after a female student was held up and robbed on campus just after sitting a midterm exam last night. LaDon Davis visited the campus today to get reaction from students.
It was Creole 104, and we were having a midterm examination last night, and a student left because she completed her examination. So as we were wrapping up the exam, we heard somebody saying, "Help, help."
It was those screams of distress from a female student being attacked by a gunman that spurred COBA's president Alfonso Major to action.
We walked outside, me and a colleague of mine, Gerard, and we saw a man in all black shirt, blue pants, accosting us. So we ran out and we was trying to get him because he's a police officer. And when we came out, the guy ran and he followed the guy. By him trying to follow the guy in the back of the A block, the guy pulled the gun on him. I went back to the classroom. The girl was a bit battered. She had some marks on her face. She was bleeding. Her shoes was popped. Her cell phone was stolen.
COBA's president Alfonso Major says criminal acts on campus will only get worse if security efforts are not improved.
There's a total underfunding of securities here at the College of the Bahamas. We look at the fact that they lack resources such as flashlights, they lack resources such as walkie-talkies, and these are the things that you need to basically equip the men that you have here on a day-to-day basis to protect the campus, as well as most of the cameras, not operational, most of the lights which are 24 out, they have yet to be contracted.
But this is not the first time that a COB student has been robbed on campus. Back in January, a student was robbed in one of the college's bathrooms and another in the parking lot of the Pt1 bookstore. Some victims of campus crime say 3 to 6 security officers patrolling the campus isn't good enough to protect more than 5,000 students.
So it's not very safe, especially for females, and especially at night if you have classes coming out 9 or 10 o'clock in the night. So no, I don't feel very safe.
Access points that are not manned by security, and the college is not doing anything about it. They implemented more security guards, but those security guards are basically here just to watch the cars, and we see it as a problem.
COBA's officials say they plan to team up with the Crisis Center to implement a preventative hotline sometime next week. They also plan to beef up nightly patrols and partner with businesses to safeguard students while on the outskirts of the campus. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.
In other news tonight, cabinet ministers are weighing in on the debate surrounding the payment of real property tax by government officials and parliamentarians, with one politician promising to reveal the financial status of all.
And tonight, Janaea Noel Ferguson tells us this comes after it was alleged that the government official with responsibility for the value-added tax initiative was behind on his estimated $500 annual real property tax payment.
Labor Minister Shane Gibson categorized those who criticized Ishmael Lightburn's tax delinquency, including those in opposition, as hypocrisy.
When I finish disclosing the details of all of the persons, like I said, I'm not gonna limit it to persons who are serving now. I'm gonna expand it to persons who previously served, who while they served didn't pay their real property tax, and who subsequently ran ahead and caught some of the amnesty periods that we would have offered, and they paid their real property tax. And I'm going to show you the hypocrisy in this.
Minister of Labor Shane Gibson says he plans to reveal just who is up to date on their real property tax, and the fact that Ishmael Lightburn, the messenger for the government's value-added tax campaign, is behind on his taxes, he says it's just a reflection of the times.
Check out the number of persons whose electricity off, big houses, right? People who previously had plenty of money who ran in the hard times, who cannot now afford to meet their basic obligations. And when they cannot meet their basic obligations, you think they can meet real property tax and other taxes?
Gibson says he won't be rushed into revealing that list just yet, but admitted that he too at one point was behind on taxes. Mike Howell MP V. Alfred Gray added that the nation's policy makers should be up to date.
I mean, people are very funny. If they know that you're asking them to do something that you yourself is not doing, it becomes a conflict. That when the debate starts in earnest, you can speak loud and speak proudly because you're not one of those who are not paying your taxes.
Now, Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson added that a public disclosure committee has lawful permit to oversee that issue. But Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder believes this issue is bigger than just one person.
But I think it's unfair to single one person out. I think it's unfair to single one type of tax out. There's businesses throughout this country who are not honest when they bring in items at the border. And that's the same type of thing. So I think that, we have to look at it holistically. And it's a struggle that governments have had, not just the Bahamian government. Governments throughout the world have a struggle with tax compliance.
Minister of Financial Services Ryan Pinder says despite the public debate on the issue, he does not feel that this will harm the government's campaign on the value-added tax. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
There's been speculation that confiscated fishery goods aren't being disposed of in a transparent manner. But Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Mr. V. Alfred Gray, clarified the issue today, explaining that the thousands of pounds of seafood that are fished illegally are sold to fish houses and vessels could be auctioned off.
The position is that the Ministry of Finance has taken possession of the fisheries products and they have begun to dispose of them. Some of them are being given to charity. Others are being sold to fish houses in New Providence. And I am advised that the decision with respect to the vessels or the vessel and the engines would be made sometime this week. I have people who are inquiring about those small engines, some 40 of them, and they're very good for fishermen who have small boats, and I'm hoping that the government would see it fit to sell some of those engines to our fishermen.
Now, Minister Gray also commented on the recent seizure of a mega vessel, which he hopes the government will put to good use.
I hope that I could persuade the government to use the larger vessel for plying between North Andros and New Providence for the school. Okay. The School of Marine Sciences and Agriculture is soon to be opened, and there will be a need for having shipments between Andros and New Providence. And I think that boat is a good boat to be used in that process.
In our first look at weather, we do have that upper level trough, which is creating some cloudiness over the northwest Bahamas and even a few showers in the vicinity of the Berry Islands, some of which will drift a little further south during the course of the night. But outside of our studios, we have partly cloudy skies, temperature 79 degrees, relative humidity 70%. Your winds are out of the south at 4 knots, barometric pressure 1,000 and 15.0 millibars is 29.97 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned. Temperatures around the Family of Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Mixed reviews on whether or not the country should legalize marijuana. All that and more coming up. The legalization of marijuana for medicinal and recreational
It's legal in many places around the world. Find out what Bahamians think about the possibility here at home.
plus, C.I. Gibson wins the Hugh Campbell Championship. We've got the highlights of the Rattlers' return to pick up a championship crown. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Shell Quality Fuels.